So you guys can see behind me here, we've been working really hard to get next season's firewood already. I think I got about 3 cords of firewood back there. We need about 4 or 5 to get through the season here in New Brunswick. But on my last load yesterday, I filled the wagon up as full as I could, and this happened, guys. Right here, I blew the transmission on my 1996 Mtd ride-on mower, guys. The weight was just too much. The transmission started slipping and I blew the rear end on it. I know nothing about rear ends on a lawnmower. And today here on the homestead, we need to fix this because equipment is expensive and we can't always run out and buy brand new equipment when something breaks. So today we got to learn how to fix a rear end on an Mtd 1996 ride-on lawnmower. This, guys, should be very interesting. This is not going to be a how to fix your transmission on your 1996 Mtd Yardworks lawnmower because, well, I am not an expert and I know nothing about transmissions on lawnmowers. This will be my first fix. We'll bring you guys along. We'll show you a little bit about what we're doing, what we're having to do. We don't even know if this is going to work. We picked up an old lawnmower last year. I swapped out the fuel tank because the fuel tank on this one when I bought it was leaking. And I picked up the old lawnmower for parts, the tires, the fuel tank. It cost me 50 bucks. The fuel tank alone brand new was 75 bucks, so I figured that was a good deal. The other machine is a bigger machine, but I'm hoping the transmission is interchangeable. And today that's what we're going to be finding out, is if we could take that old transmission that still works on the old mower and put it on this one.
And hopefully it fits, because if we get this all the way back to the house and it doesn't fit, I'm not going to be happy.
We know nothing about lawnmowers.
No, and they're really rusty, and I detect some yelling and not nice words over the next day. But let's get this back to the house and see if we can rip it apart. So our first goal is to try and get some of these rusted off bolts off. I've sprayed some carb cleaner on them first, and now I'm going to use some WD-40 to try and get them off. Don't mind the goat, he's not happy I'm not in there with him.
This stuff looks really rusty.
Yes, it does. I'm hoping this might help loosen them a bit. I don't know.
Better look at what we got to do. We got to get this transmission off of this mower. We got to release all these springs here. This one looks really tight. It's going to be hard to release. And then here's the pulley that the belt, right in there, there's the, you guys can see there's the pulley that the belt sits on. The belt comes along here, comes to another pulley, and then there's another belt right here, and this is the drive pulley from the engine. So we have to somehow get the transmission off this pulley, get all these rusted bolts off the transmission. Once we do that, then we gotta see if it fits the other mower. As I mentioned before, guys, this is not a how-to video. We know nothing about lawnmowers. We know nothing about transmissions on lawnmowers. But if we can get this transmission off and onto the other mower, this will have saved us hundreds of dollars here on the homestead today and allow us to get back to cutting wood again. So we're just working on this right side first. I'm going to take these bolts off and hopefully we can drop that transmission with no problem. As Manda laughs more.
Yeah. Hey, at least I got the bolts undone. They're pretty rusty, but carb cleaner and WD-40.
So after having a better look at the other Mtd lawnmower and coming back in here and looking at this transmission, we found out that
it's not the same. This one is basically reverse. On this transmission, you can see there's a pulley with a spring on this side. On the other mower, it's actually on this side down here. So now what I'm going to do is see if I can take it apart, and maybe we can use the gears inside to put on the other one. Hope, maybe.
Yes, that's a big maybe. Hopefully we can use the internal, all the gears, sprockets, and everything inside. It doesn't look like it's too hard to take apart, guys, but again, we know nothing about lawnmowers, so we're just winging it here today. We're going to take this apart. We're going to see if the gears are the same as the other one. The only problem is we got to take this one apart and the other one apart now. We're hoping just to drop the transmission on this one and then be able to take the other one apart and swap the two transmissions out. That's not going to be the case because all the mechanisms are on opposite sides of the transmission. This is obviously not a 1996 MTD. It's probably maybe a 98, and it's also different horsepower. Different horsepower, different style, different machine. So, on to plan B now, guys. Seeing if we can swap out the gears that are inside that are broken. So if this doesn't work, guys, one good thing we're going to get out of this, homeschooling mechanics course.
Are you learning anything?
Corbin's learning how to take a lawnmower apart. Teaching him all the different tools and teaching him the parts is good for a young man. So one day when he has to do this, he'll know what he's doing.
One day when mommy's old, he can take over.
He can take over the farm.
That's right.
Mechanics class 101
Exactly.
on the Run Amok Homestead.
Good job. You almost got it. See? Teaching him how to do it for me so I can supervise. There you go. Pull. Pull. Did it come off? Came off on me too. They're stubborn, these ones.
What we're trying to do is we're trying to
Get a cotter pin out.
take this bar right here off so we can get in and get those two bolts out so we can drop the transmission. We're almost there, guys. We only got 2 bolts left and we'll be able to drop that transmission and start taking it apart. We have the transmission out.
That took longer than I wanted it to, but it's off.
That actually took us, what, half an hour to drop the transmission?
Yeah, maybe
About half an hour. Now what we got to do, because this transmission doesn't match our old one, we got to now, there's 2 parts of this transmission here. We have to take this apart. As you guys can see here, there's some bolts here that we got to take off.
Here.
And here. And then we got to get inside and get to the gears that are in there.
I'm going to put it this way. I'm going to spray all these bolts to hopefully loosen them a bit. You want to spray them? Okay, watch. I'll show you. Just go like this.
Right there?
Just like that. On all the bolts.
Okay. This one?
Yep. Good job. Those ones are empty, so come up here. Like find these ones. Good job.
Sure is nice having help on the farm.
That's why we had kids, so they could do the work. You gotta put it right down on the top. Okay, try it. There you go. Keep going. There, you're good. Do the next one. Right there. You gotta make sure it's right on the top. There you go. Okay, this one. Pull it out. Last one. That was not an easy one to get off.
Let's have a look inside and let's see if it's got the parts that we need.
It's all rusted inside.
Hang on, don't touch,
You
okay?
can see all the grease in there. Now, chances are, because the spindle on the other mower is coming out, we probably broke this gear right here inside the other transmission.
Yeah.
But
We don't know if
We don't know
this
yet.
will fit the other one.
exactly. So the dilemma we have now is
How to get the other one apart without breaking it.
taking
Or-
these parts and putting it in the other mower. But this is what it looks like inside a transmission, guys, of an MTD lawnmower.
Fancy.
Have you ever seen inside a transmission on a lawnmower before?
No.
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 I haven't either.
It wasn't hard to get off. Or I mean, it was hard to get off.
This is the part that we broke off on the other mower right here.
Right there.
This is still attached inside of our transmission. We broke this pole here away from this.
Does that pole pull out right now? Is there gears
it
inside?
There's gears inside this box. What I'm thinking we're going to do is open the other transmission, take this piece out.
With the tire. So you've got the tire, you've got the sprocket, the spindle.
Right. And just put this inside. This gear should be the same size in the other transmission. So we'll leave everything else in it and just place this inside the other transmission. That's my plan.
In theory, it sounds good.
In theory, it sounds great.
And if it doesn't work, we have two lawnmowers that are stripped.
Free. If you want one of them, send me a message. I have two. Great deal. Free. You just have to take it away. Okay, so the engine works. See this plate right here? Mm-hmm. This goes to the wheels and the belts that are on the mower, which attach to the engine. When the engine turns, the belts turn this little plate right here. Okay? Which turns these two gears attached to here. See this gear over here? See the teeth?
That one?
Yeah.
Right there?
Those teeth line up with the big teeth on that big bar, which the wheels are attached to. So when this wheel turns from the belt to the motor, it turns these gears, that turns this gear, that turns the big gear, and then that's what moves your wheels. See how they're all connected? It's pretty simple because all the teeth lock together and they can't move anywhere else. So these teeth turn the big gear attached to the wheels. And that's how the mower works. So when you turn off the engine, it stops the belt from turning that little plate, which stops the gears in the engine from moving.
And all the grease in there is help to keep everything lubricated and cool while it's driving.
That's right. If you didn't have all this grease in here, these gears would get really dusty and dry like the rest of the mower. And the teeth, these are called teeth, they would break off.
And things would seize
and then
up.
It wouldn't line up anymore and it couldn't turn. If the teeth don't line up perfectly, it can't turn anymore. So that's what causes the wheels to stop moving.
So now the plan is to take these gears and put them in the other mower. We need to bring the other mower in now. We need to take it apart. It's a lot easier to take apart a machine that's broken because we were banging it, smashing it, just being rough with it. But now we got to carefully take apart the other mower. And there's a lot of bolts that were in the way on this one that we just sheared them right off, and we're not able to do that on the other mower. So this is going to be very tricky, guys. But let's grab the other mower, let's bring it in here, and let's start taking it apart. So what's the plan?
Build a wall. We're going to lift up the other mower, the back end of it, and we're going to rest it on these so that the tires in the transmission hang over this side to brace it, so that I can hopefully take apart the transmission and drop the back tires.
Because
to prevent it from falling on me.
Because we don't have a floor hoist.
No, we don't have a hoist of any type to lift it up. And this was the best solution so that it doesn't fall and crush my skull.
That sounds exciting.
It is.
Let's try it. Let's see if it works.
All right, grab that brick, put it here. Big end forward. That's the small end. Good job. We need one more.
So we got the lawnmower up on the bricks. Now, guys, this is not a how-to video. This is not the conventional way of doing this. I do not recommend doing this. Never do what we do. But we do have the back end up in the air. Amanda's just putting some lube around the bolts that we need to take off to drop the transmission underneath. Hopefully this works, guys. Because if this works, this is going to save us hundreds of dollars. Now, this is an older mower. We could go and do all this work on it, and it could die on us in another month. The motor could pack it in. but the motor's still strong. Everything else is good on the mower. It's just the rear end wet. So if we can actually fix this, this will be a lifesaver, and we can get back to getting that wood out in the field, brought back, processed, and down in the wood cellar for next winter. Well guys, we got the back end of the transmission taken apart. You can see this wheel here. And this one over here, this is the spindle that came out. It appears like it's threaded. We're not 100% sure yet. We're going to have a deeper look at it. But here's all the gears inside the lawnmower. We're going to have a closer look at that. And you can see underneath here the headache to take all those bolts off to get it out.
So after looking over all the parts, we figured out that our problem is inside this little box, and this is the differential that sits inside the transmission, and this is a cover that holds all the gears. So what happened is our gear that was attached to the actual tire came off for whatever reason. So we have to take this little box off. There was a bolt that went all the way through holding the gears together. We took that off, and now there's 4 little star screws all the way around holding this cover. So I'm going to try and take those off now.
So here's the dilemma, guys. We were trying to take out the screws, and the metal on these screws is so soft, we actually ended up stripping them. These screws have been on here for over 30 years. They've never been removed, and as you guys can kind of see how bad they got stripped. We were even using the right hex head to take that off. Now what we're down to is just doing a swap out. We're not going to use, I wanted to save these tires because these tires are in really good shape, but that's not going to be the case. So here's the tire, guys, from the old machine that we picked up for $50, just sitting on the trailer there, that we took apart already. You can see the tires have a lot of wear. You see all the cracks through the tires. Now, this is the bottom half of the rear end transmission from the mower that we're fixing, and you guys can see here the broken parts. These are all broken, and these were on the edge here. Those are some of the parts that were broken, only some of them. But this one here has all the parts,
and they're not broken,
still attached to it, and they're not broken. We didn't want to use the old tires and this old setup, but unfortunately those screws were too soft.
Yeah, we can't get them out without drilling them out, and if we drill them out, we have nothing to replace them with.
Exactly. So, and this is what we were working on the other one.
Yeah, this is what we had to take apart. This is the differential box, and this is actually just a cover that covers over the gears. There's 4 gears inside this little box. So there's 1 on the end of each drive shaft, and then there's 2 coming in sideways right here on these 2 bolts. And what happens when this wheel turns, those gears turn, which causes the wheels to turn. And one of our drive shafts came unattached in there somehow. We're not sure why or what, because we couldn't open it.
And we're not experts.
And yeah, I'm not a mechanic. But
a lawnmower mechanic? We are not.
But yeah, this looks like it should fit. They're both pretty much exactly the same size. I don't see any size difference in them. This one has all the washers and pieces on it already. So we're just going to basically lay it down in there, lift it up, and try and bolt it back on.
Even though these 2 machines, this is our year apart. This is the one we're trying to fix. And that's the scrap one we picked up. Yeah. It looks like the differential and all the gears are the same size.
Mm-hmm. They didn't change the transmission from one year to the next. They just changed the side that the brake was on. On the newer mower, it's a 96. The brake is on the opposite side of the transmission. So ours is on this side. The brake is on this side on the other one.
So just to give you guys a bit of an idea on how it kind of looks, we put the other tire on. So we have both tires on right now. And this is what it's going to look like. Now this is only, of course, the bottom half of the transmission. These are all the gears. And then what we're going to do is take this and lift it up underneath the mower over there where the other half of the transmission is. I'll show you guys. So we'll lift it up. You can see the other half of the transmission here. And I'll hold it up in place we'll bolt it all back together. So we're starting to get the transmission, the rear end here, back up into place. We've got about 4 bolts in just to hold it. Hope you guys like our little makeshift stand here. Is that dangerous? It could be. Again, don't follow what we're doing, guys. But it's starting to go back together pretty good. These are the bolts we got left here on the ground that we got to still put in. And a bunch of bolts. There's different lengths. I mean, we've got shorter bolts, we got longer bolts, but everything seems to be going back together as planned. This is the brake down here. We got to reattach the brake. You can see here, there's the brake pad, and it's going to go against the brake drum here. We got to attach this spring. This spring just puts tension on the mower deck, which goes on here. But we're getting pretty close. I'm hoping in the next hour or two, we'll have it all back together and we can take it for a ride and see if it works. Well, guys, we got it back together. What a nightmare. Not knowing anything about a ride-on lawnmower, doing a back rear end transmission on it, not fun. But being a homesteader, you have to be comfortable with doing these kind of things. Even if you think you can't do it, guys, you can. Best thing to do before you start any project, take a picture of it before you take it apart. Look for a schematic online. That's what we did. We looked for a schematic on how some parts went back together when we couldn't remember how they went back together. We got the mower back together. Here's a true test, guys. Let's see if it works. The moment of truth, guys. It burns the little blue. So today was a success. When you don't think you can fix something, have a look at it, because chances are you can, guys. We fixed this lawnmower. We didn't think we could do a transmission, but we did it. We looked at it. We made it work. Now we're able to get back to cutting wood. Thanks for hanging out with us on the homestead today, guys, and we'll see you guys in the next video.